In the last tutorial, I mentioned that effects that alter the volume of a track or channel are best used on the insert slots, and now I'm going to show you how to use an FX channel track. And there's a multitude of different ways to add FX channels to your Cubase project. And to show you the first way, I'm going to go back to our project window, and you'll notice that you can add an FX channel track just from the project pull-down menu, and then going to add track and then FX channel, and then you get a window that looks like this. However, one of the things I don't like about using this method is that it doesn't do any of the audio routing for you. If you do the same process from inside the mix console, some of those audio routings are taken care of ahead of time, so you don't have to do them. Cubase does them for you. So I'm going to hit cancel right now. Then I'm going to type F3 to get back to my mix console. And now let's add a reverb, which is a time-based effect, to the vocal group channel right here so that we can add a little bit of reverb to our lead vocal and both of our backup vocals simultaneously. So I'm going to select that group channel, and then I'm going to right or control click on the fader, and then I'm going to come down this list, and you'll notice that I can add an FX channel, which is the same as adding an FX channel in the project window, or there's an additional feature, which is add FX channel to Vox, and Vox is the name of this vocal group channel. So I'm going to click on that so that it does all of the routing for me, and then it's going to give me the exact same window, and this is where you choose which plugin you're going to use to add the effect. So I'm going to click on this drop-down menu, and I'm going to scroll down here and go to the reverb category, and I'm going to use one of the built-in reverbs that Cubase comes with, which is called the Revelation Reverb. So I'm going to single click on that, and then I'm going to come over here and click Add Track, and then immediately it shows you the control panel of the plugin. But I'm not going to make any of the changes that I want in this reverb right now because there's a couple of other things I want to show you first. So I'm going to close this control panel. Then I'm going to come back to the mix console, and you'll notice that along with the Vox group channel that we added that FX channel track to, we now have another fader in our mix console. This purple fader is the output of that reverb. So we added an effect to this group channel, but how does the signal get from this group channel into the reverb? Well, that's done through the sends. Now let me open the Edit Channel Settings window because I want to show you what happened in the background. So I'm going to click that E button, and you'll notice that it added that effect to our first slot in our sends. And it has the same name as that plugin right here, the Revelation. And then there's a horizontal fader that comes across here. This is how much signal from the track or the channel gets sent into that reverb. So if you turn that fader up, you get more reverb. If you turn it down, you get less reverb. And since this is on a group channel track, it's going to be applying reverb to all of the vocals. So if I set this at the default position of 0 dB and then close this window, I'm going to come to the vocal group channel and hit the solo button. You'll notice that when I do that now, the solo light for the reverb comes on. So it's aware that there is a send level in this channel, so it automatically lights up the reverb that send effect is plugged into. And now when we listen to the vocals, we're going to hear the reverb.
Yesterday was not today. The day before was totally not today.
But that is way, way, way too much reverb. So we're going to go in and make some changes to the send level, and we're also going to adjust some of the settings of the reverb. So let's listen to this project from the very beginning. While I'm doing that, I'm going to hit the edit button again. Now, because we already know that there's way too much reverb on this track, I'm going to back off some of the send level, so I'm going to turn that send down a bit. And then I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key on my computer keyboard and double-click on that send, and that's going to reveal the control panel. Now let's call up a reverb that isn't so gigantic. So I'm going to come to the preset browser here, and let's go with a few different presets. Let's try the Live Stage Bright.
I say black and you say white. we never find the gray. You say left and
That's nice, but it's probably still too large of an environment. So let's try a medium hall bright.
me down. I'm beaten up and knocked down to
That's still too much. Let's try a very, very small room. Let's scroll down here and try some smaller ones.
tomorrow.
Let's go with the small hall bright.
We're at an impasse.
That's getting closer. Let's try one of the studio settings. So let's come to the small studio bright here.
Do we sink or do we swim? Our listing ship is looking grim. Well, take my hand and you will see.
And that's getting really close.
In all this misery, and I say young and you say oh.
But I do want to increase the amount of reverb, so I'm going to come to the main time and adjust that parameter up a little bit.
From every meal I drag you up. You shoot me down, down, down.
That's a nice tasty sounding reverb. So now I can close that control panel and I can listen to that in context with the other instruments. So I'm going to come back to my mix console and unsolo that group channel.
Tomorrow will be just another day. We're at an impasse.
Now to me that's not quite enough reverb now, so I'm going to adjust the send level in the rack. So I'm going to click on the EQ rack to close it. Then I'm going to come to the sends here. See, here's that exact same send amount, but it's a smaller version of it. So let's turn a little bit of that up, and I'm going to rewind the project here so that we can start to hear some of the reverb applied to the vocals.
I say yes and you say no. Why can't we agree? You say stop and I say go.
And you'll notice that the output of that reverb is right here. So if I wanted to adjust the overall return level of the reverb, I could adjust this fader. But then another huge advantage to using FX channel tracks is that you can assign that same send to lots of different other channels. For example, if I wanted to apply a little bit of reverb to the snare drum, I can scroll over here to our snare track, and now I can go to the send level here, click on that send, and it's going to reveal this little list of possible destinations. And what I want to do is send some signal into that revelation reverb. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to power up that effect plugin.
We're at an impasse.
And now I have some reverb on that snare. So that's the big advantage to using FX channels, is that all of your channels and tracks can have a send level or an individual send level applied to the exact same effects. If you needed to put reverb on every single track, you'd have to channel insert a reverb on every single track. And not only is that more work for you, but it's also more work for your computer. And reverbs take a lot of horsepower to generate, so chances are you might run out of horsepower on your computer before you actually get all those reverbs made. So it's much more efficient to use the traditional studio method of using one reverb or as many reverbs as you need different reverb effects for, and then use the send effects to route the signal from some of those tracks and by varying amounts into each individual reverb.